Ladies and gentlemen, this is RedGamer.com video. Do Microsoft collect user data in the Windows 10 technical preview? Now, before we discuss the article as a whole, it is worth remembering that Microsoft do encourage you not to utilize Windows 10 as a regular production operating system. In other words, not your day-to-day OS. But if you read portions of Microsoft's privacy policy, it does basically indicate that the company is using a keylogger amongst other methods to obtain certain information regarding Windows 10's performance. And as I said, Microsoft are pretty much insistent that you do not use this OS on a day-to-day. Indeed, it says, and I quote, this is an excerpt from the privacy policy, when you acquire, install, and use the program, in this case the operating system, Microsoft collects information about you, your devices, application, and networks, and your use of these devices and applications and networks. Examples of data we collect include your name, your email address, your preferences, your interests, your browsing, search, file history, your phone calls, your SMS data, your device configuration, and finally sensor data and applications usage. So, I'm sure this may cause a little controversy, as not only this, but when you open files or applications, it will indeed collect information about the file, the program, and what you're actually opening. So for example, if you are, just a pure example, you're opening your key financial data, you might not want to do that if you don't really trust what could be happening with this. Another example is it is collecting what you're typing. And what you're entering into forms. And the reason behind this supposedly is because of spell checking. In fact, Microsoft say, and I quote, and this is from the privacy policy once again, Microsoft uses data we collect from the programs to operate, improve, and personalize the program and other Microsoft products and services. Some data is stored on your device and some data is transmitted to Microsoft. Microsoft shares some of the data with our partners to improve how their products and services work with Microsoft's products and services. And indeed, Microsoft says that the information is only used to contact their consumers, whereas the data preferences are used to configure programs' features. They are disclosing this data, and Microsoft said it will only share the data with the user's consent. And Microsoft also states that the company will only share or disclose information about you with others, Microsoft controls subsidiaries or affiliates, and with vendors or agents working on their behalf. Unfortunately, there's not further clarification, but I realise, just from what viewers have kind of commented in videos and messaged me and so on, that a lot of you are tempted to do this, and I will be making the virtual machine thing. It actually took me a ridiculous lengthy amount of time today to perform a review on Stronghold 2. Just simply because of the nature of the game. It took me playing several hours basically to get a grips of what the benefits are, what the cons are, so unfortunately I've had to put that back because at the end of the day I need to get reviews out as quickly as possible. However, I did want to inform you about this because, as I said, I've had people asking me should they be running Windows 10, particularly now with yesterday's news concerning DX12 on Windows 10's launch. So what I don't want is you to be going ahead and installing this on your machine and then it's sending this level of data. Now, here's the thing. Generally speaking, if you are installing this technical preview is meant for a couple of different individuals. One, those like myself, tech enthusiasts, who maybe want to show it off or see what it is or the fuss is about. Ideally, that would be set on a different partition, because let's just be totally and utterly blunt here. What you don't want is a situation where you're running Windows 10 or another basic OS and you're working on some project and then the OS crashes and you've not had a chance to save, or even you're just gaming and it just falls over. So ideally it's always good to have them on at least a different partition or a different machine or a virtual machine or whatever. The other main use for them is a technical department type of thing. So, for example, you work at IBM or you work at like a large company and you need to see how Windows 10 will work with your infrastructure. In other words, will it work with, say, the databases that you've got set up? Are there going to be any networking issues? Is it going to work? Maybe a software development, does it have any problems with, say, any of your custom libraries that you've produced? So on and so forth and so forth. In those cases, the information that's going to be used is probably going to be fairly minimal. You're not going to be, for example, using it on Amazon. But I also understand that there are probably going to be a large number of users who are not going to take heed of this, and instead they're just going to say, Windows 10, free version, profit. And I believe Windows 7 was very similar, where they offered like a free beta trial. And so there is that just to bear in mind. What I don't want you to do is to be using this and then come back in a couple of months' time and be a little bit pissed that, you know, Microsoft might know your porn surfing habits, just for example. So just be wary of this. This is a problem with betas. Now, hopefully, he says, this stuff will be removed in the final iteration of the title. So, in other words, on the release, you're not going to have this. At least it's prevalent, because to be totally honest, this is getting a little creepy level of prevalent. And obviously if it's a virtual machine, well, it's less of a big deal. Just remember, you know, not to use that for, say, buying your groceries, because at the end of the day, we don't exactly know what's being sent. And if you're security conscious, or even if you're not super security conscious, you may not be particularly comfortable with the idea of certain information being broadcasted so freely to Microsoft and or their partners. And once again, without us knowing precisely what is being sent and precisely what is not being sent, it's kind of uncool. So yeah, just whenever there's a situation like this, here's my advice to you. If you're not 100% comfortable with not caring if that information is being sent to someone else, so for example, let's say that you're going to be doing a Google search, and this is a pure example, on when the release of a new film is going to be released. You don't give a crap, most likely, when that who actually knows who if you're searching for that. So fine, you know, use the technical preview. On the other hand, if it's something you might care about, even down to like Facebook passwords, your shopping list, an email to friends, whatever it is, I would suggest, if you're not comfortable with it, do not use beta OSs. Always be very careful and mindful of this stuff. Anyway, oh, and one last thing before I forget, before I close out. Remember, for the technical preview, you are required to have a I can't remember what the account's name is, but basically an account with Microsoft, and so it is tied to that. And I didn't like that initially, so I guess that makes sense. I guess that's why they're doing it. And one of the reasons behind that is so they can give you a serial number for the technical preview. And I guess behind some of that is so that they could keep track of it. In other words, so that they know, oh, this technical preview is being used by Bob, and so on. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, or maybe not, depending on your usage of Windows 10 at this point. But hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. If you can rate, comment, subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. Take care, and bye for now.